An ancient grain lost in time, millets indigenous to India are now fighting for a seat at your dinner table. Chef Vanshika Bhatia was first introduced to the grain in her grandmother's kitchen. But it was only 4 years ago that she started cooking with millets as a professional.
I think millet is a better substitute instead of using just wheat because it keeps you fuller for longer. You eat less and it's slow release energy. Millets also give a depth of flavor in the dish that wheat can never do.
Gluten-free pasta, crackers, salads, breads. The versatility of millets is boundless. Considered an obsolete food, the reputation of millets is changing. In part thanks to a push from Indian farmers. More than 1,000 kilometers away in the state of Telangana, we meet India's pioneer millet farmer, Veer Shetty Biradar.
This crop is currently 60 days old and we'll harvest it after 100.
During a work trip, we rediscovered this ancient grain grown by his forefathers. Since 2008, he has travelled across the country, training and convincing over 10,000 farmers to switch to millet.
Tie the stems this way so your crops stand up to the winds better and don't break in half. Remove the weeds around them as well.
Used to growing cash crops like rice, wheat and sugarcane, often supported by government subsidies, Indian farmers are digging their heels in.
It's not easy to convince farmers to grow one crop instead of another. They won't listen to us. The majority of the farmers used to grow sugarcane. Sugarcane farming requires 120 times more water than millet over 12 months. It needs more water and care. So we tell them to try millet. It only takes 60 to 90 days to mature. It's very easy to grow and there's no maintenance. So to make the farmers familiar and grow an interest, we tell them to grow sorghum millet as a border crop or intercrop.
This alone is not enough. Veer had to use another strategy to get farmers to grow millets commercially. Just a few meters away from Veer's fields lies a millet processing unit used by 300 farmers.
So this is what we explain to the farmers, that if they try to sell the raw material, it won't be sold for much. But as soon as they process the material, they're immediately paid double, and if they add value to the product, they'll be paid 4 times.
Veer is not the only one to bet on millet. For scientists, this 10,000-year-old grain might be the seed of the future. On the outskirts of Hyderabad, the capital of Telangana, lies the sprawling campus of ICRISAT, International Crops Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics. Over 1,300 hectares of research labs, farmlands, and the world's largest gene bank for dryland crops. Dr. Kuldeep is the custodian of these tiny grains where life begins.
This is the millet. This was stored in 1978.
The bank contains 79,000 varieties of millet, considered smart food according to the institute.
Naturally, these are climate resilient. For example, pearl millet is one crop that is growing at most harshest conditions. And if we see the climate change happening, probably these are the crops which will be less affected than many other crops. If we see the water use, these have the highest level of productivity per unit of water that we are giving to these crops compared to rice or wheat or maize.
Painstakingly preserved between 4 and -20 degrees, these seeds are regularly tested for traits that can flourish during climate emergencies. These ancient kernels contain diverse genes, key to fight problems of the future.
All these crops have evolved from their wild relatives. And those wild relatives have evolved over millions of years. Probably more than half of the genes which are conferring resistance to diseases, insects, they have come from those wild species.
One of the roles of the researchers here is to provide marginalized farmers from Asia to Africa with technical know-how on millet farming.
I mean, they're gorgeous. Look at them.
Director General Jacqueline Darros Hughes is convinced that millets will play a key role in achieving food security.
You've got obesity and hunger on either side and malnutrition in the middle. The millets can hit all of them. They're good for your health. They have a lot of nutrients. They have low GI, no gluten, so it will appeal to the export market.
India convinced the UN to declare 2023 the International Year of the Millet. The country is already the world's leading millet producer with 15 million tons per year. While the war in Ukraine has disrupted the world's wheat trade, India hopes to fill the cereal gap with this wonder grain.